Hey guys, we are looking at an inequality with absolute value, right? So it's a little bit different than our normal inequalities you may be used to solving, but it's not too bad, okay? So when you are solving a problem like this, there's four types of solutions you might get. You can get an and inequality, an or inequality, all real numbers, or no solution, okay? Now, obviously I'm just doing one problem here, so you'll see one of them. If you want to see a video where I do an example of each of those solutions in one video, I will link that in the corner, okay? But let's go ahead and solve this. So my first thing I want to do is get the absolute value alone on one side of the inequality, okay? Meaning I don't want this plus 2 here, and I don't want this negative 4 here, okay? So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Minus 2, which leaves me with negative 4 times the absolute value of x minus 1 is less than or equal to negative 24. Okay, now I want to get rid of that negative 4. It's being multiplied, so I'm going to divide it off. And I should have alarm bells going off in my head. Why is that? Because I divided by a negative, okay? When we're working with inequalities, if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you flip the sign, okay? Let's go ahead and circle it to remind me. We flip the sign, okay? If you're wondering why we do that, I'll link a video in the corner, okay? All right, these cancel, and on this side, I am left with the absolute value of x minus 1. I'm flipping that sign so it's greater than or equal to negative 24 divided by 4 is going to give me a positive 6, okay? All right, this is what I wanted. My absolute value bars and what is inside them are by themselves on one side of my inequality, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split this into two different inequalities, and I'm going to change colors, okay? So I'm splitting this into two different inequalities, okay? There is a reason we're doing this. It wasn't just made up, okay? And if you're wondering why this works, why we do this, I'll link a video in the corner, okay? The first one we set up, we are just dropping the absolute value bars, okay? So I'm going to have x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 6, okay? The other one, I'm still going to have x minus 1, dropped those bars. I'm going to flip the sign and have it be a negative 6, okay? So now I'm going to solve this, but actually first, remember I told you there was 4 possible answers? Well, the all real numbers and no solution answers have to do with this number, if this number up here were negative, okay? It's positive, so we don't have to worry about those ones, but, sorry, oh my gosh. So what we do need to worry about is if it's an and inequality or an or inequality, okay? And how do we tell? Well, there's a couple ways to tell. The easiest way is to look at this guy right here, okay? When my absolute value is alone on the left side, and this is a greater than sign, greater than kind of sounds like greater, right? I know that's not how you spell greater, but it helps me think of greater. So that means this is going to be an or inequality. And if you're wondering why, again, that video I linked earlier will explain why, okay? But now we know it's an or inequality. Let's go ahead and get my x's alone, okay? So I'm going to add 1 to both sides here. So I end up with x is greater than or equal to 7. So that's one of my answers. Or x can also be, we're going to add 1 to both sides over here. So I end up with x is less than or equal to negative 5. Okay, those are my 2 answers. Okay, inequalities and number lines love each other, so we're going to look at this on a number line really fast to help us understand it a little better. So if we have 7 and negative 5, right? X is greater than or equal to 7 or less than or equal to negative 5. Okay, so those are all the possible answers that I could plug in either here or here, and I would get a true inequality statement. If you wanted to write it in interval notation, if that's how your teacher wants the answer, we can do that as well. So I can plug in any number from negative infinity to -5, right? We're going to put a parenthesis by the negative infinity. Infinity and negative infinity always get parentheses when we are doing interval notation. -5, I'm going to do a bracket because it's the equal to and a closed circle, which means it can be -5. Okay, so I use a bracket. And then this is, we do a U for union. Okay, so this represents this side. Now we need to figure out this side. So we can go from 7, which gets a bracket because it can be 7, all the way to infinity, and infinity always gets a parenthesis. Okay, so that is my interval notation. Okay, so these two are the same answer, just written in different ways. So you can use whichever one your teacher prefers. Okay, all right, hopefully this made sense. I will link a whole playlist with lots more of these examples if you need it. Thanks.